What is up, everybody? Brandon Golden here with the Ghost Carolina Performance Podcast. Got my good friend on here, Brian Walker, assistant head of strength and conditioning for baseball at IMG Academy. Welcome, my man.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, big dog.
Of course, dude. This is going to be a lot of fun. Tell the listeners, who you are, where you're from, and kind of how you got to the point you're at in your career right now.
Yeah, man. So obviously born and raised in Florida. So like every other kind of strength and conditioning professional, played sports, played hockey, soccer, football, baseball, ended up kind of isolating into football and baseball as I kind of was growing up. Played baseball primarily in high school and was fortunate to get a scholarship to play baseball at Florida Gulf Coast University. So again, kind of stuck in Florida, just moved to the West Coast a little bit. Was there for a year at Florida Gulf Coast and then made a transition to a Division II school, Palm Beach Atlantic University in West Palm Beach, Florida. So again, just born and raised school, middle school, college in Florida. From there, while I was at Palm Beach Atlantic and kind of started at Florida Gulf Coast, I actually got my undergrad in sports medicine. I grew up, my mom was a nurse. I played sports, just put sports medicine together, and that's kind of how I came to my degree that I wanted to do. So was fortunate to do that. Like I said, I got my degree in sports medicine with a concentration in athletic training. After I was finished playing, was super fortunate to play a couple years of professional baseball, indie ball up in Illinois. After that, when I hung him up, it was, kind of start life. And, at that point, that's where kind of in my career, I feel like everything happens for a reason. For athletic training, and people don't know that once you finish schooling, you get approved to take your board of certification in the degree. So with that, you have a 2-year window to get that done. So like I said, I played pro ball for 2 years. So when I went back, I couldn't take my board of certification. I had to actually go back to school. So I was fortunate to have a baseball scholarship while I was there. But if I were to go back to school, I would have to pay for that. So then that would kind of rack up student loans. So that's actually what had me pivot into sports performance. And while I was there, Boca Raton area, I started in the private sector with a good buddy of mine who actually was in athletic training and made the switch to sports performance. So I was like, all right, like this would be the guy to talk to. His name's TJ Kanoki. He has a place called the R3 Wellness down in Boca or Delray area. Give him a little plug right there. But he was super awesome. Was kind of like my first mentor in the game and kind of helped me out. I interned for him, volunteered for like 6 months, and eventually got hired on there at Impact Sports Performance and kind of started building my resume with that standpoint. While I was there, I actually was fortunate since I had the connections in baseball and knew some agents in the area or whatever. I started a baseball off-season program down there with some minor leaguers and a couple major leaguers. One of them being, one of my best friends since we've played in high school. So did that while I was there. Also worked with a Division II school down there in Boca Raton, Lynn University. So that kind of gave me my itch in college athletics. And with that, I kind of wanted to run with it. So from there, I actually quit my full-time job and I was like, listen, I want to try this thing out. Worst comes to worst, I can always come back to the private sector and do that. So I was fortunate enough to get a paid assistant position at Louisiana Tech University, where I was fortunate to cross paths with Kurt Hester, who now is the director of football performance at University of Houston. He was awesome, very blunt person. I remember my first day walking in, he gave me some paperwork. Verbatim, his words were, hey, I brought you in do work, not put work on my desk. If you can't do that, I'll find somebody that can. So I was like, all right. He's like, all right, you have softball at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll see how this goes. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So while I was there, helped him out with football, but oversaw the baseball and softball program at Louisiana Tech. Was there from fall of 19 to like spring of 20. And then, of course, everybody knows COVID hit like spring of 20. So our baseball and softball season got canceled. But during that time, during quarantine, funny enough, connections happened or whatever. And I actually interviewed for a paid internship at University of Georgia. Me there fall of 20. While I was there, again, everything happens for a reason. Got there in the fall. The graduate assistant actually got that was there at the time in strength and conditioning. Got a job at University of Utah. So they asked me, hey, do you have your master's? I'm like, no. It's like, do you want to slip into this position? I'm like, yeah. So why not? So moved into a graduate assistant position. While I was there, I was primary assistant for baseball and basketball, was the primary strength coach for equestrian, diving, and men's tennis. while helping out with the other 15 or nine other Olympic sports. So I was there for 2.5 years, did my thing there, loved every minute of it, got my degree from there. So I'm go dogs all the way now, just hopped on the bandwagon. That's when they started winning national championships. So I figured no better time to hop on, right? So then from there, had the opportunity when I was done with my master's, got a job opportunity with the Cleveland Guardians organization, formerly the Cleveland Indians. Got there just after the All-Star break. Spent the year there, worked at the development facility out in Arizona, where helped out with major and minor league rehab, as well as oversaw the rookie ball program. So I was the primary strength coach for that. Was there for a year. Super. I learned so much. Very developmental focused organization. Very like they're almost like they got that underdog mentality, low market team, but like, hey, if they bring you in, they want to develop you. So that was super fun. And then, like I said, I'm from Florida, so the opportunity came up where IMG Academy came knocking to become their assistant head of strength and conditioning to oversee baseball. It was an opportunity to go back home, something that I knew my wife would be super excited about. And now I'm finishing up year 2 here at IMG Academy and enjoying it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for walking us through that. It's a
Of course.
super cool, super cool path, and I think it's one that most people don't understand. So I want to unpack it a little bit. Like the sports medicine side of things. Like I didn't know that you started in that, by the way. I
Yeah.
started my undergrad in athletic training and sports medicine as well, and I was like, yeah, this just wasn't really quite for me. It didn't do it the way I thought it was going to. And then when I graduated, I thought I wanted to do respiratory therapy, and then I tried that out, and I was like, no, I am. I'm talking about like being
Yeah.
blunt. Like I'm too blunt for that. Like I think I told an older person, like, hey, we got to get your ass moving, and they're like, Brandon, you need to relax a little bit.
Yeah,
And I
for
was like,
sure.
so I went over to High Point University and got that rolling. But man, like you've got some awesome experience where you've been in the private sector, you've been in high school baseball at a super high level, national level, the college level. Louisiana Tech is one of the better programs, especially at that time. Obviously in the SEC, and then you talk about professional baseball. So, what would you say are some of the differences and similarities of the places that you've been and how you go about writing programs and just interacting with your players?
Yeah, so obviously the big obvious one that the biggest difference is the athletes, obviously. So obviously working with youth athletes. I mean, my youngest client when I was in the private sector was like 7, 9 years old. So super young. Obviously working in high school where here at IMG Academy, we actually go from like middle school all the way to post grad. So almost like freshman in high school. And then obviously at University of Georgia, 18 to 22, sometimes 24. It was around that time of COVID. So we had like 25-year-olds at that point. And then obviously professional baseball. I mean, you got guys that either high school and then all the way up to 10-year major league veterans. So I would say that was the biggest difference. I think also with that, it's just the maturity of the athletes. As you kind of go higher in it, they're a little bit more dialed in and very much more in tuned with, their development, their routines. Like obviously our pro guys, like they had their routine. So my job wasn't to like reinvent the wheel. It was like, hey, what works for you? And if you have any questions, almost being that resource of like, what can I maybe add or adjust to your routine to give you the best chance for success? That way you feel good both physically, but then also mentally. Like some people almost forget about like that mental aspect. So that's that. But other than that, like the fun thing, like you said, I'm fortunate to be here at IMG. I mean, the resources that I've had during my time at Georgia, Cleveland Guardians, and here at IMG, I mean, you name it, we have it. So my biggest thing is one thing that I learned from Kurt Hesser at Louisiana Tech, we had nothing. I mean, I think we had some Tendo units, but Hesser is very much like that. Like I love the fact that that was my first stop because he really ingrained the whole aspect and the importance of coaching and connecting with people. You can have all the tech and all the resources in the world, but if you cannot connect to people and be able to coach them, then none of that stuff matters. You know what I mean? Because I think somebody pointed it out like technology is almost like a GPS. It only points you or gives you validation or invalidation of where you're going. But at the end of the day, like you have to have a plan. Like you have to put in that GPS, like, here's where I want to go. How can I get there? And the GPS kind of guides you with that, right? Like I said, having all the resource and all that, my biggest thing, I don't like collecting data just to collect data. I'm really big on collecting it to have a plan. And a lot of that, I'd rather be, I guess, in a sense, like instead of being data driven, I'd rather be data informed. So let me be informed in order to kind of drive where I want to go with the program. And like I said, I'm very big on the standpoint of when we test retest, Is it validating what I was trying to accomplish with my athletes or invalidating that? If it's invalidating that, then what adjustments do I need to make in order to put them in the best position possible to develop the qualities needed to put them in the best position possible to have success in their sport, right? Because I tell my guys, like, listen, what we do in here isn't going to have a direct correlation out at the field. I think Coach Zach Dakin is really big on this. On like the standpoint of like the skill's the skill. Let them do the skill and all that. Now take the skill, see some things that you need to work on from a quality standpoint. How can we improve that in a general aspect in the weight room? And then from there, you got good luck. You got to hit a round ball with a round bat. I mean, these kids are throwing like upwards of mid to upper 90s nowadays. Like we faced a kid here at IMG the other day that was, sitting 94 to 96, topping like 97, 98. Like you got to go out and do it. But again, going back to the mental side, having that confidence that you put in the work in the off season and continue to put the work in the in season, that's kind of the biggest thing. And like I said, um, the technology, having all those resources at all these stops has been great. But at the end of the day, the foundation is coaching and like the education of like why you're doing it, how's it going to help you, and how's it going to get you closer to your goals.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I think that's kind of what I want to touch on a little bit. Like, what does it look like when people get to IMG? We hear like here in High Point, we have Wesleyan Christian Academy, like
Yeah,
a pretty high level baseball program, year in and year out. Uh, and they train here. They come here. They use this as their facility at times when it's raining. So I get to
no
watch
doubt.
guys and
No
watch
doubt.
them kind of go about their business and stuff. And their head coach over there's been around for a long time. He's the man. He's kind of got it rolling. Played college, played professional baseball. So I get to see it from that end on like what a nationally ranked high school team looks like.
Yeah.
Because being in the college level and in the private, or excuse me, in the professional side, like you don't really see how high level high schools work all the time. So
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you, like when a kid comes to IMG, whether to your point a minute ago, where it's in middle school, high school, or like even the post grad stuff, like as soon as a baseball player steps foot on campus, like what does that look like from the baseball side, from the strength and conditioning side, from I believe some of them stay there. So like walk us through what all that looks like.
Yeah, man. Like, so it's kind of cool. I guess in a sense, I say it's a high school, but technically, if you want to be super technical, it's a boarding school. So again, we have this different levels from middle school to post grad, but then schedule wise, like from their day to day is set up like a college. You have AM and PM, right? So AM would be like, hey, you do your sport from like 8 to 12, and then they go to school from like 12 to 5. So it's very much set up like that. Our varsity guys, I'll take you kind of a day through that. Our varsity guys will have classes from about 8 to 11. And again, they have A days and B days from a schedule standpoint. So A days, they have a certain schedule. B days, they have a certain schedule. So there's like 3 to 5 classes that they take or anything like that. Once they're done, they kind of have that lull between like 8 to 12 o'clock where it allows them to get lunch, kind of make the transition, head over to the locker room or anything like that. Usually we have the schedule set up. The thing that's kind of crazy that people don't understand. So going into the spring season, we actually field 15 teams. So I'll start with that. So we have 4 middle school, 1 JV, 9 varsity programs, and then 1 post grad.
Wow.
So with that, you can only imagine what our field coordinator has to do from a scheduling standpoint. So again, varsity is their schooling's in the morning. Now it's kind of like Tetris in the afternoon. So you get one of two tracks in the afternoon with our athletes. You either start with a lift. So like from my standpoint, strength and conditioning, we'll have different slots. So right now our slots is 1:30, 3:30, and 5 o'clock. So teams will slot in, 3 teams will slot into it. Our teams are about 12 to 15 athletes. So if you get 3 teams in there at one time, you're looking at 30 to 40 athletes at one time. So they'll either come in at 1:30, get their lift in. Once they're done, about a 30-minute window right there, they head out to the field, they practice. Or they'll leave from lunch, go out to the field, they'll start practice at 1 o'clock, finish around like 3 o'clock, and then they'll either have lift at 3:30 or 5 o'clock. So on my end, I do the scheduling from the weight room, knowing that the slots that we have, and pretty much I take those 15 teams and I try to, hey, they have games, I block those out, and then I try to fill them in. And what we try to do here, especially in season, no matter what, each team is lifting twice a week, non-negotiable. Like you come late from a game, don't care. Like we're very much our whole entity here at IMG is just purely development. All right. So if we can continue to develop in season, that's the biggest thing. And that's something that obviously we'll touch on it later is that's the advice I would give to other high school kids that like your development doesn't stop because I hear it all the time to where you go off, you do your thing in the fall, you do your winter break, you come to season, all of a sudden you stop training. And like that doesn't make any sense because you gotta almost look at it. I always tell our guys, like, everybody likes money, right? So imagine your body is a bank account. You spent this whole off season making deposits, training, recovering, nutrition, putting on weight, and all that stuff. Now all of a sudden you're going into in season where you're making a bunch of withdrawals. What are you doing to make a deposit? You stop training, you stop doing your nutrition. You're not locked in on your sleep because you're playing Fortnite till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, like in the morning. Like all of a sudden, like there has to be a give and take. So, okay, like you might be performing, but maybe you're not hitting the ball as hard. You're not throwing the ball as hard. Now you're running into some nagging injuries or and all that. So again, going back to our schedule, like it's a non-negotiable. We go 2 times a week. We do that throughout the whole season. But yeah, man, it's fun. It's crazy. I think from my experience with Cleveland, I look at IMG as it's spring training all year round. Like we got about 230 athletes in the baseball academy, and I think our associate director said the other day on a podcast, the amount of games, I think we schedule about 630 games for the spring between our middle school and post grad programs. So trying to figure that out, like everybody looks at our facility. Yeah, we got 6 nice fields, 2 half fields and all that. But trying to figure out games on that and trying to get it done, it's kind of crazy, but it's fun at the same time.
Man, that's really cool. I didn't realize it was that big. Number
Oh
one.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That is exactly what that sounds like spring training. That sounds like minor league spring training.
No doubt. No doubt.
Uh,
So no doubt.
so what does it look like when they get there? So they get there, they're in school, like they're gonna
Yeah.
stay there. Like when they walk into the weight room, like how do you start like your process with them, with everybody, knowing that there's that many people?
Yeah, so again, I'm fortunate to have like even now, I'll even talk about our strength staff. So our strength staff is 23 strength coaches. So again, we have 3 weight rooms. We got 2 on the west side, 1 on the east side. So I'm fortunate to have about 2 to 3 assistants. So when they first come onto campus, they do their check-in, they do all their signing in and all that stuff for academics. From a strength and conditioning standpoint, the first thing that we do, we test. So we do performance testing. Our general performance testing battery looks like we have, mid-thigh pull, counter movement jump, 60-yard sprint, and we do broad jump, rotational broad jump, and we kind of finish off with that. So again, that gives us a baseline. The other thing that we do, not only from outside of our performance testing, education. Like, here's the standards, here's the expectations. Our biggest thing is you're going to be a good person, have a good effort, or give good effort, have a good attitude, and work hard. If we can accomplish all 4 of those, then the most important thing that I always like to do is have fun. Like we can do that, but not at the cost of your development. Again, talking about that, laying the foundation of like what's expected in the weight room, obviously safety, like my number one rule, no one gets hurt in the weight room. So making sure we do that because again, with so many athletes, we don't have the ideal, and I'm sure it's the same with other players. We don't have the ideal coach to athlete ratio. So we have to teach these kids not only what's expected of the weight room, but also how do you fail in the weight room in order to not provide any injuries. So I guess like that's maybe an aspect that some people kind of forget. Like something as simple as like, hey, if we're going through a progression of a zombie squat or a front squat, how do you bail from a zombie squat or a front squat? How do you spot that? Now that's always a trick question. I always ask my athletes, how do you spot a front squat? They're like, oh, you hands under elbows. Wow. I'm like, you don't. You don't. Like, that's the beauty of a front squat. You could just dump it in like whatever. So, usually when I demo that, you usually get a lot of the, jumping when I like take the bar and just drop it on the ground and it makes this loud crashing sound. So education is a big thing that we put our hat on of like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is why we're going to do it. And these are the things that we hope to get from this training in order to put yourself, again, in the best position possible to develop the qualities needed in your sport to give yourself the best chance to be successful. So again, once we go in the fall, our fall schedule is pretty straightforward. It's almost like I almost modeled it like a college. And again, the person that was in front of me, who's now our head strength and conditioning coach, he did the same thing before. So it wasn't reinventing the wheel. We actually train 4 days a week in the weight room, upper lower body split. Ideally, I would like to get 2 speed days, but because of logistics and how many athletes we got 1 speed day, but we kind of use that speed day from an educational standpoint. And then we always preach that you can use your warm up as a little microdose speed. So again, educate on that one day and then try to tell them, hey, this is what your warm up should look like in order to reap the benefits of continue to build up on your speed development. So again, 4 days in the weight room, 1 hour in the field. They usually get Saturday, Sunday off to kind of do that. We go into winter break. I provide them with a program, but before we get to that, we actually test at the end of the semester too to kind of see the gains that they do or they get or don't get at that. So again, very objective. You can't argue with numbers. You either put in the work and you got the results, or you didn't put in the work and you didn't. Now it's like you make a choice during winter break if you want to step your game up or, hey, let's stay on the same track. So again, going into winter break, I provide them with the program. That's usually about 3 to 4 days a week that they can do that. Once we come into preseason, we'll actually go to 3 days a week, 2 days of speed. So then we'll get ready for the season. That's usually like a 5 week block. And then again, going into in season, 2 days a week, no matter what. And we do that all the way to the end of the season. But yeah, like you were asking before, going back to your original question, when they come on campus, tests, we do that, try to get baselines, education, why we're doing the program and why we're doing everything to have them a deep understanding. And then from there, we just train, we get after it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. One
Yeah.
thing that I want to ask about. So obviously at the college level, when
Yeah.
we would test guys when they get there and
Yeah.
winter break and stuff like that, like to your point just a second ago, they either put it in the work or they didn't. Like, how does
Yeah.
that work at the high school level, especially at IMG? To
Yeah.
like, I know how it would have worked at East Carolina if somebody wasn't putting in the work. Like, it would have been
Yeah.
me and 2-3 having a conversation with somebody like, hey, so
No doubt.
this ain't how we roll here. So like, how does that work at IMG? Obviously, with them being high school and potentially even younger, at a place where like that's literally their whole point. That's why they're there is to
No
develop
doubt.
and to be elite. So how do those conversations go?
No doubt. So the thing that's cool, it's tough, obviously, to have these one-on-one conversation with so many athletes. So one thing, shout out to our sports scientist, Katie Schwinger, who is here. She works with men's lax. So we have our AMS, we have Smart Base AMS. So the thing that was really cool is with the AMS, the kids have access to their data on their phone. So what I do to hold myself accountable, but then also allow them to hold them accountable and take ownership of their data, we do jump testing every week. So what I did from there is I took 5 metrics that very easily digestible, but then I also put in parentheses of what qualities you're training. So to kind of give a little bit in that, the qualities, those metrics either talk about strength. I put jump height on there. I don't put a lot of real estate into that. More so for me, it's just keeping the same effort. Like if that stays the same or gets better, cool. I know the effort across the board when you're doing your jump testing is great, but strength, explosiveness, power, all that. Again, in season to hold myself accountable, I actually retest with some of our pieces of tech. So, say for instance, speed development, I'll actually test the guys every 4 weeks throughout the fall. So with that, we'll have timing gates, and with that, they'll have their times, and then they can actually see once they do their timing gates, hey, this is what your 10-yard split look like. Obviously, if we did a phase of acceleration, we want to see that improve. So, hey, did it improve? Did it not improve? If it didn't improve, let's have a conversation. Usually, a good amount of our athletes, they'll have improvements. We don't need to have a conversation. Just keep doing what you're doing. The ones that don't, they're like, Coach, well, what do I do? Well, hey, how was your effort? How's your effort? How was your attitude? Then I always go back to the big three. How was your nutrition? How was your hydration? How was your sleep? If you can't answer those for me, then we're not going to have any further conversations because that's low hanging fruit. That's free. I know Alan Bishop like throws that out of like the most free performance enhancers out there, like sleep, hydration, nutrition. So we retest every 4 weeks with our sprint testing. We actually test every Monday on counter movement jumps. So again, I educated them on the standpoint of this is what we're training. This is what we would want to see in our data. If it's not trending in that direction, let's have a conversation. So again, they take ownership of their data because again, after they jump, that data goes straight to their phone 15 minutes after their jump. And then again, hey, I tell them after, hey, check out your data. If you have any questions, let us know. So again, I put the ball in their court. I'm one of those that I set the culture of like, it is your career, not mine. I'm not going to babysit you. I'm not going to chase after you. If it means a lot to you, then you'll show that in the conversations that we have. If it doesn't, that's on you. But the fun part, the other layer of it, is that the parents start coming in and they're like, hey, what's going on? Like my kid's not trending in the same direction. So I'll have the conversation with the parents of like, this is what, the expectations in the weight room they might not be living up to. And I'm very blunt in that standpoint. Like their effort's probably not the best, their attitude's not the best. So then again, I communicate to the parents. So then they'll get it from me on the front end, they'll get it on the back end from the parents, and in hopes that they make that transition. So again, having the resources is fun. Do I need it? No, but then it allows me to hold myself accountable. But then it helps with our culture from accountability standpoint, not only from our athletes, but holding them accountable from the data. So again, they know what they should be looking for and how it should trend. If it's not, then they start. My whole thing is I want them to start asking questions and start thinking critically. Because again, when they go on to their next career, the thing I learned from the Guardians was routine. Like routine, routine, routine. You teach them, how do you take ownership of that? So that's the same thing with them. I want them to ask questions, build out the routine. What do they do before lift? What do they do after lift? And if they're not sure, ask the questions. Let's have the conversation. Let's add this, take away this, and then kind of build from there. Yeah,
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And it seems, from the outside looking in that it's a lot of elite human beings that are trying to
no doubt.
accomplish the goal of either playing professional baseball right out of high school or going to a high level college to be able to
No
go.
doubt.
That's a really cool way to, I didn't think that you would be dealing with parents, but like that, because it's they're youth athletes and they're minors, and that's awesome. How have you been able to, I guess, instill some of your beliefs and your thought processes through the parents into the kids? And like, how does your relationship and I guess just who you are as a person, like on the parent side, like what's some advice that you give them and how do you just interact with them and get to know them with probably them being across the country?
Yeah, so I think like there's one or two ways you can go about this. And I feel like some people have trouble with the first way, and that's just like, hey, this is what I believe, this is what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. You usually get some friction with that because like, I mean, as much as I harp on putting my hat on education with the athletes, it's just as important educating the parents as well. So again, we're fortunate to hear at IMG Academy. I mean, to put it lightly, they put an investment, like a pretty decent sized investment in here. So I could say, like, yeah, I deal with the parents, but then again, like the amount of investment they put, like they should have a say into it. So I'm very open. The advice I would give is like just be very honest and upfront with them. Like, hey, this is what I do and this is what I believe. And then these are the reasons why I do it. And again, it kind of helps that I've had stops at the highest level in college baseball and had stops at, in professional baseball. So again, usually the easiest pitch for me is I came from where your kid's trying to go. You know what I mean? So like that's always like that's where it's at. But then again, it's not me pounding my chest that, hey, I was here and this is what I did or anything like that. It was more of like, hey, this is what I believe and this is why I do things. But I'm curious to hear like, what are your thoughts? What are some things that you learned along the way in your kids' development? Because they're in a really good spot for a reason. And again, they're in this spot before I even got here. So clearly you're doing something right. So let me hear what you got. And let's try to meet like halfway. I'm like, all right, cool. I do like that. Let's take that. But like, let me insert this because I feel like it's been beneficial. So I guess in a sense, like working with them has been like the best thing to kind of build the relationships. And again, almost coming from like, hey, we're going to do this together rather than this is what I'm doing and you're going to fall in line or anything. And again, that's something that I'm trying to get better in my development. Like I'm in a position where I have assistants, so I have to lead. So that's something that I'm trying to get better of. Like, hey, not only like just dictating things, it's like, hey, let's go to this together. Like my assistants have just as much, and I tell them they have just as much of an input in our program as I do. You know what I mean? So again, going back to your original question, having the conversation, meeting them where they're at, and just having an open mind. Like me having an open mind, them having an open mind, and then just having conversations with the athlete being the forefront and the center of the development.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's really where all of, athletics and all of
No
performance
doubt.
is going nowadays. Like the old school of, hey, you're gonna do this just because I said so. Like that doesn't exist
Yeah.
anymore because like if it's at the college level and they don't like it, like cool, well I'm out. So
I'm
like
out. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that really exists. So kudos to you for like laying the foundation for that now. For people that don't know, like how do kids get to IMG? Do they get invited? Do they apply?
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's arguably one of the most top elite performance academies in the country. Like how do people get there?
Yeah. So it's a good amount of filter systems. So again, kind of giving you like pulling back the curtain on IMG. So when we're not in the school year, so usually that's from August and May where we have our full-time students. We actually run like our company is like we do a lot of camps. So a lot of kids that might not be financially in the spot to be able to come to IMG have the opportunity to come to our camps. And in a sense, like just like a college, like how colleges have camps, we have them too to kind of showcase in front of our coaches that run those camps, showcase their abilities. One way that you can get to IMG is you come to our camps and we invite you to come to IMG. And if we can make something work, then so be it. Other than that, like we have our website to where, hey, you want to come to IMG, you go on there, you get connected with our staff here at IMG, and you kind of the beautiful thing, you can come here, set up a tour. Because again, not many people know, like we have 600 acres of land here. So we have an east side and a west side. All of our field sports are on the west side. So again, the weight room that you see on Instagram all the time, that's only one of our weight rooms of one of our three. And then so you could do it that way. And then also like we're fortunate that like, we want to have the best talent and want to be able to develop the best talent. So there are times where we'll go out and like reach out to some athletes of like, hey, like here's the opportunity, here's what we offer. If you're interested, then by all means, we'd love to have you. And if we can make it work, then we make it work. So again, through camps, obviously, if we were to reach out through, like we have tournaments, like right now we're hosting a tournament. So if there's a kid that comes here and impresses our coaches or anything like that, have a conversation of like, hey, if you enjoyed the time that we're here, like we'd be open to having you here. And then obviously like reaching out to IMG Academy and seeing if you can make it happen and enrolling and kind of get that going. So multiple avenues, different ways of kind of making it happen to give yourself the best chance to kind of make it to that next level.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that kind of leads me right to the next thing I wanted to ask. So obviously you've you've been able to see people and players go from the youth level, the high school level to college, and then from college
Yeah,
to professional throughout your career.
no
How
doubt.
have you seen and how has that been different at IMG? You've been there about 2 years now. So like how have you
Yeah.
seen guys either go to professional baseball out of IMG or to college baseball? And how is that different from your time in the private sector and then your time in college baseball?
Yeah, again, like I think the biggest thing with that is the guys that do make that jump from high school to professional are the ones that is like, that's your 1%. They're dialed in. Like, yes, they're making that investment, but I always tell our guys, like, let's do business 101. Like, if you make an investment, what are you trying to get? ROI, return on investment. So we had a kid here last year. He was from Des Moines, Iowa. Came here for 1 year. And the biggest thing that he wanted to do was maximize that 1 year. The kids that come in here and that maximize every single day, every single opportunity that I do, those are the ones that make it to the professional level because that's quite a bit of a jump. Like we're playing 25 games in season. Now you go there. And again, I'm very upfront and I'm fortunate to be at those other levels to kind of like give them a reality, like, cool. Like they just kind of see, all right, cool. I'm going to play, I'm going to sign, and then I'm good. No, you're going to play, you're going to sign. You're going to probably be assigned a rookie ball where you're going to play in 120-degree weather with zero fans in the stands at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So again, some guys like to hear that. Some guys are like, coach, like I appreciate that because then again, talking to my one of our athletes that ended up doing that, he was like, dude, you were spot on. Like it is ridiculous out here or whatever. But at least like he got that sense of peace. He's like, thank you. Thank you for like giving me that realistic because like if I didn't know that, I kind of my head would have been spinning. You would have been all over the place. So yeah, those guys that are like pretty dialed into like their routines, what they do before, dialed in on nutrition, dialed in on their sleep, all that stuff. Those are the ones that make the jump to professional. Not saying that that's not everybody there. Some of the other ones that they buy into the program, they do a great job of like maximizing all that, but it's just that little extra that they might have not like dialed into. Those are the ones that go into college, and it might have not clicked here, but those are the ones where it clicks in college for them. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then right now, I'm fortunate right now to be working with our middle school guys. I tell them right now, like your development is priority. Like I do not care about your games. Like I just want you to move well. I want you to know why you're doing things. I want you to have a base level of strength. I want you to be able to stabilize your pelvic because everybody looks like they're doing the Macarena on a glute bridge, but you got that. I want you to be able to have coordination, to be able to like alternate right leg and your opposite arm, opposite leg when we're doing technical drills during speed. That's kind of the biggest thing. And then again, the thing that's kind of cool too is that the way we kind of set up our system is that middle school, you progress even some exercise or anything to JV. JV, you progress to not our lower, but like our freshman sophomore program, and then from our freshman sophomore program to our junior senior in order to prepare you for college and professional. Because I even got guys right now. We'll finish the season like some of our P4 guys. They'll finish the season. You know this, BG, of like they'll finish the season. You have a month to get ready. Now you're starting summer classes, you know what I mean? And you're doing your freshman program with your strength coach at your school. Some of the guys didn't know that. And it was like, that's what we did at Georgia. So again, I'm fortunate to have the experience that I've had to pass that along to these guys. And I guess that's maybe that one thing that you might get here that maybe some other coaches don't have that experience. No knock to them, but that's some of the little things that you might get here that you might not get somewhere else.
Yeah, which is huge, man. And like that experience, like people ask all the time, they like to talk about my experiences and obviously
Yeah,
yours and stuff. It's like I can only give you the experiences that I've had. Like I can't
exactly.
give you your experiences. I can't give you like other players that are out there hitting right now. Like I only
No
know
doubt.
that I've lived, and like I
No
think that's so
doubt.
important to be able to share that stuff, man. So like kudos
No
to you
doubt.
for like keeping it real with them because like if there's so many times where people are like, oh man, good for you, like you're about to be in pro ball, like hey buddy, like you better saddle the hell up because like professional
Yeah.
baseball in the desert, like it's real, like and even in,
Yeah.
like it's real too. So like being out there and like it goes from being something that you've loved to do your entire life to like something that's a job now. So like just
Yeah.
have that mindset flip like is huge, man.
No doubt.
One thing that I like to do in these things is like just give a little bit of advice to the high school kids,
Yeah.
college kids, maybe some guys in the minor leagues, and then even young coaches that are looking to kind of maybe follow in your footsteps and kind of, be a college strength coach, be a high school strength coach, work in the private sector. Like, what's some advice that you would maybe give to those four groups, and even the parents? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but like
Yeah.
the parents along for the ride as well.
Yeah. Um, I've thought about this quite a bit because that's usually the question. Because again, like you said, like IMG is like it's like almost a pinnacle of high school there. Like so, like I always get those questions, especially now that I've like put out content on Instagram of like people getting almost drawing back the curtains on like this is what we do. Like nothing crazy. It's just we try to do simple at an elite level. I guess the biggest advice is I'll start with the coaches, obviously coming up in strength and conditioning, is that like don't think you're below anything or any type of work in your career, right? So again, like would I recommend the path that I did? Absolutely not. I had a full-time job in Boca Raton, Florida, and I quit that to take a paid internship. I do not recommend that to anybody, but I was so motivated on the fact that like, hey, I really want to do this because again, the other part I would say is like do what you love. Like if you're really passionate about it, like go all in on it. Cause like, yes, is it rough at the beginning? Absolutely. Cause I mean, as much fun as I had at Louisiana Tech, some of the stories I don't tell you is that like, yeah, I mean, Hester could tell you about this. My paycheck after taxes was $800 a month. After I kind of like did my rent and all that stuff, I had enough for groceries. And then I slept on a deflating air mattress for 6 months. Like I would go to sleep in a fully inflated one and wake up and I'm on the floor. You know what I mean? But then guess what? I had to wake up and like my athletes didn't care. I had to train softball at 6 a.m. in the morning and then at baseball at 7 o'clock after practice. Like, you know what I mean? Was it a grind? Yeah. Did it make me better now that like I'm super thankful of where I'm at right now? Absolutely. Like I don't take it for granted. So I think that's the biggest thing. Like just put in the work, man. Find a good mentor. Like I was fortunate. I had Coach Hester. I've had amazing people along the way that has poured into me. But at the end of the day, like my biggest thing is that like I was willing to put into work. I was super open-minded. One of the things that, our head of our major league strength coach told me with Cleveland is like, stay curious. Like always ask questions. Like, yeah, I'm the assistant head of strength and conditioning at IMG Academy for baseball. I don't know everything. And I can say that with my whole heart. I just want to learn white belt mentality. Like I want to continue to learn, be open to learning, be curious, be willing to do things that not everybody else wants to do. Like move across the country if you have to, especially if it's a person that you're going to work with is worth your time. So yeah, for the athletes, don't sacrifice your development for the sake of the game because that's one thing that I'm kind of seeing now with baseball is that when I played, I was fortunate to play for a travel ball organization down here in South Florida that was the South Florida Elite Squad. Love them. Now there's like 500 teams. Like it's ridiculous. And they're playing every single weekend. Like, I'll be honest, BG, like I have guys that are in the fall that miss like 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of our fall program because they're playing tournaments in the fall and they're going to camps in the fall. So then now they're coming back and the question, yeah, now they're coming back and it's like, well, coach, I've been here for 2 years. I haven't really got stronger. I'm like, yeah, you skipped half of our program. like I think I forgot how I saw, but like the biggest KPI, like we could talk about strength, power, like and all that stuff, but the biggest KPI is consistency. Like I think my biggest thing is, the first thing I look at when a guy makes progress is their attendance. How often were they there? And it was kind of cool. A study that our soccer program did was the people that showed up 85% or higher to strength and conditioning sessions ended up increasing, I think it was like 5 to 10% on all the qualities that they trained in obviously the people that showed up 75% or lower ended up decreasing 10% in their qualities. And again, we didn't do a study. It was just like, hey, let's see what happens. And our biggest thing is like, if you are here, you're probably going to get better. If you're not, you're rolling the dice. So for athletes, like, do not sacrifice your development. Like, get in the weight room, get physical. Because again, with this transfer portal, something that I'm very blunt with our high school guys is that this transfer portal screws you guys. Why? Because I tell them straight up, that kid that you made fun of going D3 is now the Division III player of the year. And it's between giving him your scholarship or you taking the scholarship. He has college experience. You don't. You put yourself as a coach where your job to put food on the table for your family and all that stuff is on these type of decisions. You tell me what you want to do. So again, you lack in physical development, you're probably going to be behind the eight ball when it comes to that decision. So again, all that to encompass of like, do not sacrifice your development for the sake of the game. Like the game will take care of itself. Just make sure you put in the work. And then for the parents, like I'd probably just say, educate yourself. Like educate yourself. Do not just go off of every single thing that you see on Instagram. Try to filter out some of the garbage that you see on there. Like ask questions. The same with them. Like be curious. Like again, I'm super open minded. Like I got parents that I mean, some of my parents are Hall of Fame, Major League Baseball Hall of Famers. Like they clearly did something right to be in the Hall of Fame in Major League Baseball. So I'm gonna be, hey, what did you do? All right, this is how the game changed since you played in 1987. And like, let's go ahead and like meet halfway. You know what I mean? So again, to them, like educate yourself, filter out the BS, and then be super open-minded. And again, be that support system for your athlete of like do not sacrifice their development for the sake of paying all this money to go to these showcases. So again, I tell the parents, I'm like, save yourself some money. Like focus on like them getting stronger and all that instead of like throwing money at like perfect game and all these showcases just for the sake of what? Like I remember somebody said, I think it was on Blue Book podcast. It's like, don't go to a showcase if you have nothing to showcase. Weird concept.
Very simple.
Very simple. Like if you're seeing some of these kids that, like I said, we saw a kid that was throwing 95 to 97. If you're a pitcher, if you're not even throwing 90 right now, you probably shouldn't go to a showcase. Like you should probably figure out ways of how can you get stronger, more explosive, sequence better in order to get yourself to that point to where you develop that you have something to showcase. So again, no knock to all of that, but yeah, educate yourself, do what's needed, filter all the BS, and help your athlete get to a level that they want to get to and be successful.
Yeah, man, that's outstanding. One last thing. What are you reading right now? What are you learning right now that may be something a little bit different or outside the box?
No doubt. So shout out to our head of strength and conditioning, Will Townsley. One of the things that I'm trying to get better at is a leadership because again, I'm fairly new in a leadership senior role. So one book I'm reading right now, Extreme Ownership. I know that's something that's been like pretty big. And that outside of that, let's see, that's kind of the biggest thing. I've been so like we're in the thick of season. So trying to find different ways. One thing that I'm probably going to dive into, Zach Dakin came out with in-season masterclass. So think about pulling the trigger on that one and getting into that. But other than that, like I'm a big family man. I'm fortunate again, being fortunate here at IMG Academy. Like I'm home. I'm 2 hours away from my parents-in-law. I'm 2 hours away from my mom. 2 hours away from my best friends that I've grown up with. So a lot of that time when I do have that free time, I spend a lot of time with them and invest in them. So that kind of keeps me level headed and sane as I kind of go through this gauntlet of a season with our athletes. So yeah,
That's awesome, man. And dude, that's what it's all about.
no doubt,
That's one of the big positives in my life as well is being able to
no doubt.
do life on our own terms and do it when we want to, man. So kudos to you for being able to do that and not only being able to do it, but being able to recognize it and
No,
have the like just the joy on your face when you talk about it, man. That's what it's all
yeah, yeah.
about. That's what
Nah,
it
it's
is.
fun.
Man, Brian, thanks for being on here, buddy. I really appreciate it. This has been awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, BG. Means a lot.
For sure, dude.